Hi, I'm Kara. I'm a lab tech. Change is everywhere in medicine, but change is situational. It's what happens to your workplace. Transition, however, is psychological. It's the process people go through personally as they come to terms with the new reality the change has brought. Transition has 3 phases: letting go, the neutral zone, and the new beginning. Today, we're going to focus on letting go. Every transition begins with an ending, a loss, and a need to let go. I want to tell you about a time I found myself trapped in phase 1, letting go. I was an operational supervisor and I loved my job. It was what I pictured myself doing for the majority of my career. I was happy. Then one day I received a phone call. I had been bumped. My new position was in a different hospital, and I was no longer an operational supervisor. This was the change. It was situational, and my job had moved. So I moved to a new city, met my new colleagues, found my new office, and began my new job. The change was done. The transition, however, had just begun. I wasn't aware at the time that transition begins with an ending. All I knew is that I was miserable. Now I know I was grieving. I was angry. My entire life changed. I was anxious. Nobody seemed to care or told me what I should do, and I was sad. I cried a lot. It took me almost 2 years to find my way through the loss phase, as I felt I had no support to help me get through it. If I were my director 5 years ago, these are the 5 items I would have considered to help me through the ending phase of this particular transition. First, I would identify who was losing what. The site lost a competent team member with no time for overlap. I lost my work family, my position, my beloved role, and my confidence. I was no longer competent, and my new site lost a competent member as he also was bumped into a new position. Second, I wouldn't be surprised at an overreaction. Keep in mind, it's the loss, not the change I was reacting to. It was a piece of my world that was being lost, not theirs. I would be more empathetic and not use comments like, "Well, at least you still have a job." That's not what I needed to hear. Thirdly, I would acknowledge the loss openly and empathically. I would have made staff aware there was the probability of this change and acknowledged those who might be affected personally. In my case, I was phoned 3 days after having my baby, told to pick a new line. Let's just say emotions were high and no one even asked if I was okay. Next, I would mark the ending. I would have sincerely appreciated this step. I started at my site as a new grad and worked there for 10 years. It was never announced that I was leaving. My old site didn't know I was going, and my new site didn't know I was going to start there. It felt like my 10 years were for nothing. Finally, I would expect and accept the signs of grieving. I wouldn't say things like, "They're just a bunch of whiners," or "When are they going to learn to move on?" I have personally learned that the moving on is the hard part, and each transition may have elements of the grieving process. William Bridges wrote Managing Transitions. It has taught me that my feelings of loss when I was bumped into my new position were actually a very normal part of the transition process. Each new beginning starts with the end of something familiar. Going forward, I will react in kindness, empathy, and will acknowledge openly that with every change comes a transition. Each transition will be felt personally and on a different level. Every new beginning starts with an end.
Created using PAT-1.